Hey, welcome to how to get a free university or college education episode from Busboy Millionaire. Okay, these are my two dudes. Quinn is going to be 18 this summer. This past week, 2 weeks, he's been applying to universities and colleges. This dude is only 10 now, but he'll be 7 years away from having to apply and do to all those colleges and universities, etc. Now, how do you get a free university or college education? One way to do it is buy a house when they're babies. I had a goal early on was I wanted to buy a house every year after we started buying our first house, and the first house that we bought was when he was born. And the thought was, if you buy a place and you rent it out, so we bought our first place around 2003 when Quinn was born. And if you bought a house then, and now, oddly, 17, 18 years later, what's the value of that house? And who's paid for it? Well, you've had the renters paying for it. We put down a down payment, but one of those houses we bought was $200,000. The first house was $225,000. It is now currently valued at $1.4 million. So we could do a bunch of things with it: take money out, refinance it, and use some of that money to pay for his education. Meanwhile, that has all been paid for by tenants. So that's a big example of huge growth. But even if you did something simple, like you bought something outside of town, and if it goes up 5% every year, you're still going to make a profit on it at the end of the day. When they're 17 or 18 and they want to go to school, then you sell it and use those proceeds to put them through school. The other way to do it is you are aggressive with the way that you pay it down. So you put say you put 15-year or 20-year time on the mortgage, on the amortization that you're going to pay it off. And then within 15 or 20 years, the mortgage is paid off by tenants. Then you don't have the overhead of the mortgage, and you've got all this cash flow coming through. That cash flow could then pay for that tuition or whatever else expenses you have for college or university. The other thing you can do is, which my uncle did, which I thought was pretty interesting back in the day when I wasn't even into real estate, and me and my cousin were the same age. And he ended up going to school outside of Toronto. He went to Western University, but he needed a place to live. And what they did was, my uncle and my aunt, they bought a house down in London, Ontario, and they rented out the house. He lived there in one of the rooms, but it was 3 or 4 bedrooms. And then they rented it out to other kids, other students. So they were not only getting tenants to pay for the rental, they were also using the extra cash flow to help pay for my cousin's school. That was great. I thought that was a great idea. Excuse me, I didn't know it at the time, but when I look back and I go, oh, that's brilliant. There's a whole business of people doing university rentals in university towns and stuff like that. A lot of famous Canadian real estate guys have built entire businesses on that. Scott McGilvery is a big one for that. But anyways, there's a lot of ways you can start thinking about how you can pay for your kids' school. And outside of, there's RESPs and that sort of thing. I get that, and those are great because you get free government money that matches up to a certain point, and the money can grow tax-free, and you can put your kids' RESP into a TFSA, and then a TFSA is a tax-free savings account. and you can grow their money in there while you're contributing to it, and that money can grow tax-free. So that's another way to do it, but that still takes a lot of your money. And I have good friends that have used that strategy, and I think that's great. But if you want to do it in a way that you just put in a little bit of money up front in the beginning, you get your tenants to pay all the expenses for the next 15 to 20 years, and then you sell that property and you use that to fund your kids' education. That's the way I'm going to do it, and I would suggest doing it, but it's all up to you in the way you want to do it. But as you know, if you got a lot of kids, it's going to be a thing to make sure they all get the education they want, that expense. So something to think about. Anyways, thank you very